Hey y'all, Mike with Cardboard Kingdom. Welcome back to another Disney Lorcana video. Today we're going to be talking about how tariffs will impact Disney Lorcana. Let me start this conversation by saying I am not a global trade expert. I'm not a tariff expert. I've done some research on where the manufacturing places are located for Lorcana and have a general understanding of how their manufacturing and distribution model works. And so that's what I'm going to convey here. If you have more direct knowledge, please put it in the comments. If you have more, precise, actionable advice, please put that in the comments as well. By and large, I think this is going to be relatively unimpactful at scale. Ravensburger as an organization is set up very well for something like this because a lot of the countries that they exist and that they have consumers in are set up by their own distribution and production models. So, for example, like Europe. Europe has its own printing facility, has its own distribution model. The people in Europe, the cards are printed there, they're distributed there. There will be absolutely no impacts to how they produce cards. For those of us in the United States, the same exact thing happens. The cards are produced here, the cards are distributed here. The only caveat I will say to that is that their primary vendor for paper is Kohler, who is located in Europe. And so I don't know for a fact that that is imported, but if it is, I think that we could see some impacts there. My guess is that they would be able to find a suitable vendor here in the United States to take over that need. That might lead to printer quality issues and all sorts of different. I know a lot of you guys weren't impressed with Arcasia's Island, the new foils. They were bowed. They had foil print lines, et cetera, et cetera. I thankfully was relatively immune to that. I didn't have any issues, but that is the one thing that I could see in the United States being impacted by this. Not so much from a pricing standpoint, assuming they're able to find a new vendor if they do import the paper, but more like along the quality side of things. Now, a country that will be impacted by this that I feel like specifically for Reign of Jafar is Canada. Canada gets their product from the United States, and so therefore, if the Reign of Jafar product is not already there, then it's going to be hit by import or export at customs, and therefore there's going to be a tariff on it. So if that product is already there, great. If not, then I think Reign of Jafar in Canada specifically is probably going to see an increased price from LGSs, from big box, etc., due to those factors of coming from the United States. I did see a rumor online that starting in Fabled, they're going to source their materials or their product in Canada from Europe. So ship it over from Europe, so that way you don't have to deal with the U.S. Tariffs on the products going in and out, and you can kind of bypass it that way. So hopefully for Fabled, for our friends to the north, they will be okay and just get regular product at regular prices coming from Europe. You might see increased prices just due to the shipping costs and whatnot, but I would imagine Ravensburger would eat that, and hopefully there's not too much of that pass along to the consumer. So those are kind of the bigger impacts, countries, like in Asia, for example, like Japan and China. The cards are manufactured there. They're going to be completely fine with this. Where it will impact them, though, is the imports into the United States, right? The cost for a Japanese booster box or the cost for a Chinese booster box is going to go up whenever, consumers like myself want to open Japanese product. You're going to have to pay more for it, right? So those prices are going to go up. Therefore, they're not going to export as much to the United States. That's kind of the whole reason why this exists. Now, the boxes there are incredibly cheap, and so the tariffs that you're paying on that stuff is relatively negligible depending on how much you buy. So I think that there still will be Japanese product coming in, but I think that, Japanese product specifically more so than Chinese. I've heard that the Japanese, the company that's producing the material for Ravensburger, Takara Tomy, I think is the name of the brand. They are running a lot tighter print runs over there, and the first chapter is already relatively hard to find, especially at MSRP. And so if it's already drying up over there and we're trying to buy it over here, the likelihood of Japanese products being as cheap as they are right now, probably, I would speculate that we're going to see increased prices on those boxes in the coming weeks and months, just for natural growth of the game in combination with all these kind of outside forces coming into play here. So I think less demand overall for the Asian products in United States. And then lastly, I think that it's going to kind of cut off the United States from the rest of the world as it relates to like Lorcana open trade. So like, you know, auctions on eBay, sales on eBay, like a lot of the cards that I sell go overseas, a lot of the times to Europe, right? And so me as a seller, the likelihood that someone in Europe is going to, and I don't know how eBay is going to do this, but the likelihood that they're going to buy a card from me if there's going to be increased price, or that I'm going to sell a card if there's going to be increased shipping and things like that, like the likelihood that that's going to happen is a lot less, right? So I really think that might give, and this is like very like third, fourth order effects. I don't know if we're going to see anything like this come true, but should, you know, in my opinion, I think that the English cards are going to be very popular across the world, because it is the language that the game was founded in. The complete opposite of when you think about Japanese and like with Pokemon, One Piece, Yu-Gi-Oh, etc. Japanese is the base language. It's the language of origin. It is how the game was created. The exact opposite for Lorcana. So I think that should the demand in, let's say, Asia continue to increase, or Asian countries continue to increase for the English language variant, then people in, you know, like Europe or Canada, for example, might be able to capitalize on that. That's once again very third, fourth order effects. I don't think there's really too much to that. That is just like one example that I could see. But really, it just kind of segregates the U.S. economy and market as a whole for Lorcana. I think we're just going to kind of have to keep to ourselves for a little bit here while we figure out all the tariff stuff. But by and large, I don't think it's really going to have very much impact at all. All the stuff that I'm talking about is in the weeds of the weeds of the weeds. I don't think at a global scale, overall, Lorcana is really going to suffer much at all from these tariffs. Thankfully, because Ravensburger is positioned so well as an organization to be able to print and distribute product in states, whether that's in the U.S. or outside of the U.S. with various different printing and distribution facilities. So I don't think we're going to see much of any impacts, but I wanted to at least make a video so the community has somewhere to kind of talk about it. I haven't been able to see much online. I haven't seen any official statements from Ravensburger or anything like that. It's all just kind of like rumor mill stuff. But if you have any, once again, anything that I didn't hit on here, any direct actionable advice for people maybe in Canada, or how you think people should go about navigating lists, please put it below. And then other than that, we'll be back with another video soon. Thank you very much, guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.